Hi there. We've got Soapstone Part 2. I've roughed out my heart, this lovely steatite. This is really pretty. This is a different stone. I've never carved this. It's very clear. Comes from Manitoba, Canada. Pretty lovely stuff to work with. If you get into this, you do want to make sure you know where your soapstone is sourced, just because there are some countries that send small children into mines to get the soapstone, so you want to just make sure you're clear of that. Okay, next tool you're going to use is the riffling knife. And the riffling knife, what that's going to do is that's going to really level out the surfaces, but also it's going to help us start nipping at those edges. So things like this, I want to bring down any high points. So I'm just going to kind of give it a good little cleanup all along that edge. I want to be careful not to put too much pressure on things because I don't want to break it. Especially up here where I've taken away some material. So just kind of take it slow. When you get in here, take it slow as well. You can see that little bite out of that was taken. Be really important for me to work that out now because sandpaper is probably not going to help me much with that. So you can see I'm making some progress here, but it is, and that is why I don't like the clear stone. Oh dear. Okay, so if that happens, you're kind of in a pinch. If that happens, super glue, if you've got some on hand, super glue that, wait 24 hours, and then you should be able to go back. But once that's happened, boy, I say, in some ways, I say make it a worry stone and cut that broken stuff right off. And if life gives you lemons, then take it in another direction. I'm a little afraid for those of you that have that white quartzite, steatite, we may be in for that. I was a little afraid of that. Sometimes the lighter colored soapstones are more prone to that kind of behavior. So I'm going to make sort of a teardrop here, and I'm going to continue on my way with that. So again, it's that kind of thing you want to get off with the riffling knife. And this kind of thing right there, like, I don't know if you can see, but it's not very smooth there. It's not. So I want to bring it all down to the same level. I'm working on the flat. Just broke my heart. I broke my heart. Oh. I broke my heart.
Are you in?
I'm filming. Zooming? Yeah. No, I'm not
Just
zooming.
filming.
I'm just filming. So Mr. Fields just came in to visit me, for those of you who don't recognize his voice. He's the funny fellow who teaches next to me. All right. So this is, we got a plan B. So my teardrop is what happens when your heart breaks. I guess that's what we do. All right, so now that I've got it all leveled, for the most part, I'm going to start using the sandpapers. The first sandpaper I use is the 60 grit, which is the big stuff. So basically it means 60 grains of sand per centimeter or whatever it is. I usually use a small bit at a time, and I'm gonna just start sanding in one direction, and then I'm going to sand in another direction. And then eventually I'm going to start kind of circular motion sanding, as well as these edges. I'm going to take those down a little bit so they're not quite so sharp. I don't want any jagged teardrops here.
I'm out.
Okay.
Do our follow-up procedure. I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good day. All right, so you can see how this side is starting to really smooth down. And I would do the same thing for the other side. But in the instance, for the sake of time here, I'm going to carry this side into the 120 grit. So you can see it's really rough on the back, so that still needs some attention. And normally I would work with just one piece of sandpaper at a time. Excuse me, but I just want to show you the difference here. So this is pretty smooth, much smoother than that. And I'm going to make this much smoother using the 120 grit right here. So the same thing, I'm going to go one direction, then I'm going to go in the other direction, and then eventually I'm going to wind up in these lovely little circular motion. And this is much harder to hang on to than the heart. The heart had some edges to kind of grasp. So for those of you that have big hands or don't have small sensitive fingers, something this size is going to be a little bit tricky. Okay, so that's starting to get there. I'm going to dip it in water at this point. A little harder to see with this beautiful clearish white stone. I don't see any visible scratches, but if I did, I'd want to maybe wet that sandpaper, back up, wrong sandpaper, back up a little bit, smooth anything out before I continue on. And continuing on is now I'm going to be using the 600 grit. And doing the same thing. And this is where it like really starts to get smooth and lovely, and like you can feel, oh, it's starting to get glassy. Really nice. And I'm going to bring it down to up to the 800 grit. And I'm going to rinse it off so I can kind of see what's going on here. And again, you really can't see, but you can see how, look at the difference between this and, this. So this versus that. And so, if you were working on a heart, you would be doing the same thing. And so this is a little scratchy, so I'd probably want to back up a little bit. And I'm going 600 here. And so what I want to do is just get this kind of milky looking stuff to come off, because those are the little scratches, basically. I'm sanding off those little scratches, and you want to go this way. And you want to do the front. And you want to do the back. And you definitely want to make sure, if you've got a heart going, you want to do this indentation right here. And then you want to dry it. So I guess the first thing I do, usually, I wet it down just to make sure I could probably keep going in there a little bit, make it shiny, but in the interest of time, I'm going to dry it up. with my paper towel. And then you can use anything you want. You could use a waxy hair product like Axe or I don't know, but it can't be like a gel. It has to be wax based. And I think what I'm going to do now too is I'm going to move my tools and any good sandpaper that exists, because you're going to want it next week for plaster. Move my water, and then just like a Subway sandwich, you're gonna kind of roll it up because you don't want that dust. Any dust that you have, you want to clean up. And throw away properly. So I've got the start of this little figure and that little figure. I'm going to use this wax paste, which is butcher's wax, but you can use car wax, you could use olive oil, works great. So if you have olive oil, vegetable oil, just be careful when you use it because it's slippery and it slips out of your hands. So I'm just using a little bit of this, and you can see as soon as that hits that, it's just lovely, right? Look at that difference there. And the same thing for that. You're not going to be able to see the white one as much, which is kind of why I like the colored stone. When you're doing this, watch your rings. Your rings can really ding up your piece. And I like to get the piece, ooh, like that. Don't do that. I like to get the piece like really kind of warm in my hands. And then I use a piece of paper towel, and I like a piece of paper towel that's already been kind of crumpled up and used so it's really soft, because that way there's no way it's going to scratch it. School paper towel actually can scratch soapstone. That says something, doesn't it? So I'm just kind of massaging this in and burnishing it and getting it nice and polished. And it's at that point that you want to take a picture. Take a picture like soon, because it never looks as good as like, you know, when you first polish it. So here's one. And then I didn't really finish this piece, so I don't want to totally wax it, but so these are nice little, oops, nice little worry stones. Good little pieces. So have fun with this process. It's a good process. It's fun. It's I think you'll like it. Now that I look at this closely, I can really see some scratches. So if that's the case with your piece, even if you've waxed it, go back with the wet sand. And so I see a lot of stuff like right in here. So I would really pay attention to that. So I would go in there and I'd get rid of that, and then I'd just re-wax it. So you can back up in the process, which is really kind of nice. So hopefully that gives you something to work on this week, and good luck, and I'll see you soon. Bye.